Summer, 1944. Over the Balkan Peninsula, the sky hung heavy with black clouds. In the distance, bursts of orange flame lit the darkness. Someone's house burning, someone's dream collapsing. A U.S. Army Air Force B-24 Liberator bomber was shaking violently as it headed south. One engine blazed, smoke filled the cockpit. Inside were 8 young Americans, some barely 20, others no older than 23. Every one of them knew this: there would be no second chance in this sky. "Mayday! Mayday! Engine 2's on fire! We're losing altitude!" Captain Harold Roberts shouted into the radio, but the only reply was static, a raw, broken sound, like the sky itself was crying. Below lay mountains and villages of Nazi-occupied Yugoslavia, a dead land smothered in fear. Roberts looked up one last time at the burning heavens and said quietly, "Boys, jump. Jump now. God help us all." One by one, the crew leapt into the darkness. White parachutes blossomed against the night, while below, the bomber's wreckage carved a streak of flame across the valley, as if civilization itself were falling from the sky. Dawn and silence. When dawn came, dew covered the mountain slopes. Lieutenant John Emerson opened his eyes slowly. His head throbbed. The air was damp, the forest eerily still. Far away, a black column of smoke rose from where the plane had fallen. His leg was bleeding, his uniform torn. Beside him lay half a parachute and the faint imprint of an American flag in the mud. "God, where am I?" he whispered. No answer, only the whisper of wind through the trees, carrying the smell of war. Then footsteps. He froze. Nazi soldiers? He crawled behind a fallen log, heart pounding. But the voices that followed were not German. They were rough, earthy, almost musical. A group of peasants emerged, men with sickles, worn coats, faces cut deep by hard labor. One old man shouted something. "Amerikanets?" John blinked. He recognized the word. American. The old man stepped closer, eyes filled with both fear and compassion. In broken English he said, "No Nazi, you safe. Come, come my home." And that was how an unlikely alliance began between an injured American pilot and a band of poor Serbian villagers who would defy the Nazi war machine in the name of humanity. The hidden village. They carried him to a small mountain village, Pranjani. The name itself seemed to hum with history. Everyone there was a farmer. They had nothing, no wealth, no weapons, no power. Yet these same villagers were hiding hundreds of downed American airmen, risking execution with every passing hour. John's fever worsened. A young woman named Maria Petrovich cleaned his wounds. She didn't speak English, but her gestures said everything. Gentleness surviving amid ruin. At night, the distant crack of rifles echoed through the valleys. Inside the small thatched hut, John lay still, staring at the flickering light. He thought, "If I'm captured, they'll kill me. If I'm not, these people might die because of me." It was then he realized, war was not just between nations. It was a test of the human conscience. In Italy, a secret message. Hundreds of miles away, in the Allied base at Bari, Italy, OSS officer George Musulin leaned over a pile of intercepted reports. Multiple B-24 crews missing over Serbia. Local Chetnik forces may have rescued survivors. The OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, precursor to the CIA, was conducting covert missions across Europe. But Serbia was a maze. One side held Tito's communist partisans, the other the royalist Chetnik guerrillas led by General Draza Mihailovich. The Allies didn't know whom to trust. Musulin slammed his fists on the table. We go in. We bring them home. That decision would become one of the most extraordinary rescue operations in history. Operation Halyard. The impossible runway. Back in Pranyani, the villagers began an impossible task. At night, under starlight, men and women dug into the mountain soil, cutting trees, leveling ground, building a runway with nothing but hand tools and faith. By day, they covered it with branches to hide it from German patrol planes. At night, they rehearsed where to place the lanterns, how to signal the pilots, how to vanish if caught. Children were told it was a secret celebration for the harvest. They didn't know they were helping build a runway that would rewrite history. 3 weeks later, the hidden airstrip was ready, 700 feet long, carved by bare hands in the middle of Nazi-occupied land. When asked why they risked everything, one old farmer simply said, "Because when we needed hope, the Americans sent it from the sky. Now we send them home." The first rescue. August 1944, 3 a.m., the stars burned cold above the peaks. John Emerson stood at the cliff's edge with a lantern in his hand. Beside him was Major Miller and a few other downed pilots. A faint hum filled the air. Someone whispered, "They're here." They actually came.
A C-47 Dakota transport appeared through the darkness, circling low. Villagers fell to their knees, praying softly. The plane touched down, wheels skimming the earth, dust rising like smoke. John ran forward as the door opened. An American crewman reached out, shouting over the roar, "Welcome home, brother!" John climbed aboard, tears blurring his vision. Through the open hatch, he saw the villagers waving, some smiling, others crying. None of their names would ever make it into textbooks, but their courage would live forever. Under the shadow of the enemy. The Nazis soon noticed strange activity in the region. Lights in the hills, engines in the night, missing patrols. German intelligence, the Abwehr, sent an urgent message to Belgrade. Local Serbs assisting Allied airmen, possible American cooperation. Patrols increased. Villages were interrogated. Every night became a gamble with death. Yet the people of Pranjani refused to betray the Americans. By day, women worked in the fields as if nothing had changed. By night, they carried food and medicine to the mountains. One evening, Maria asked John softly, "You go home soon?" John nodded slowly. "If I go, I'll take your courage with me." Years later in his diary, he would write, "War isn't about killing. It's about remembering who kept you alive." The OSS lands. Communication with Italy was failing. Radio signals faded, supplies went missing. Finally, Musulin made a bold decision. He would parachute in himself. On August 12, 1944, 3 OSS men jumped into the Serbian mountains: George Musulin, Lieutenant Nick Lalic, and Sergeant Mike Rajacic. They landed in darkness, surrounded by gunfire and uncertainty. Here, ally and enemy were separated by little more than rumor. One man's friend today could be his betrayer tomorrow. Still, Musulin told his men, "We're not leaving a single one behind." The Great Expansion. The first planes carried only 30 to 40 men each, but over 400 Americans were still stranded. Food was scarce, medicine gone. Musulin and Mihailovich met under the stars. They decided to expand the airstrip, 3 times its size, enough for multiple planes to land simultaneously. For days and nights, villagers dug and leveled the soil. Women crafted candles from animal fat to guide the landing lights. Children gathered stones and cleared brush. This wasn't just a rescue effort. It was humanity defying annihilation. The sky opens. September 1944. No moon, only darkness. Suddenly, the deep, rising thunder of engines. Dozens of C-47s appeared overhead, their running lights blinking like constellations reborn. Musulin's voice crackled over the radio. "This is Halyard Base. We're ready for extraction. Over." A pause. Then the reply came clear. "Copied that, Halyard Base. We're coming for you." One by one, the planes landed. One by one, the men were lifted from the earth. Some wept, others laughed, others just stared silently into the night sky. Before the last aircraft closed its hatch, John Emerson looked down. Maria stood below, tears on her cheeks. He whispered, "Thank you, my sister." The plane rose into the clouds. Below, the candles flickered out. But the light of that night would never die. Aftermath. When the rescued pilots arrived in Italy, no one could believe it. How had such a massive rescue been carried out under the nose of the Nazi army? The mission was extraordinary, yet politically inconvenient. The United States had shifted support toward Tito's communist partisans, and Mihailovich, the royalist leader, had been labeled a traitor. So the entire operation was buried, classified, forgotten. For decades, the names of the villagers and their heroism remained unknown. But the rescued men never forgot. John Emerson returned to Serbia years later. He found Maria's grave and whispered, "You saved America. The world just doesn't know it yet." The Silent Village. In 1945, the war ended. Germany surrendered. Europe was redrawn. Pranjani fell quiet again. Few outside Serbia knew that in these hills, history had been written, that from this soil, more than 500 American airmen had been carried home. Decades passed. In 2004, the United States finally recognized Operation Halyard as one of the greatest humanitarian rescues in military history.